Hey guys, good morning, greetings, red and black fans. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. If you're just joining us, I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe down below, turn on the bell notification, and leave that awesome like. In this video, we're here thanks to Leão Infusões. Remember, you can win with your T-boxes. You can win prizes. Look, there are several little lions like this one here that you could win, right?
Pode estar ganhando, né?
But today the vulture is going to reign, right? Yeah.
Urubu que vai reinar.
But nothing matches the vulture more than the lion, right? That's because, you know why? Because the vulture, the big guy, is from Rio. Nothing is more from Rio or more Brazilian than the lion. And man, at the World Cup, we'll be with the lion. Check it out. We're also here to remind you that you can secure your spot at Flamengo's games with Aroldo's Caravan. Aroldo's Caravan even takes you to the Champions League, okay? So they have packages both for you to go to Rio de Janeiro with tickets included, local ground service, and also for those of you from outside Rio to travel to other places, even abroad with Flamengo. If you're from Rio, you can also go to the Champions League, travel with Flamengo to the Libertadores, which is coming up soon. Look, Flamengo is now playing at home, right? But the round of 16 is coming up soon. Right, Flamengo. Flamengo is waiting for the WOC situation, which should be resolved soon. Then you'll be able to plan ahead. But go ahead and look for Aroldo's Caravan. Start planning now. And if you want to lose weight in a healthy way, with Mais Cabello, you can lose weight with the Mais Slim program. I'm always here bringing this up. It's a very serious, wonderful company. So Mais Cabello is here to bring you the best in hair treatment and also weight loss. Well, I'm going to start here by rolling our intro so we can get right into bringing you all the information about Flamengo. Right, important absences, probable lineup. You can follow all of this right here on the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel.
Então,
today Flamengo plays at Barradão in Salvador. 9:30 p.m. broadcast on 14 p.m. okay? We'll share the information here.
informações para vocês.
Fifth round of the Copa do Brasil. Flamengo advances with a draw after winning the first match 2-1. They have the advantage of a draw. If they lose, knock on wood. If it's by 1 goal, the spot will be decided by penalties, okay? I'm going to give you the probable lineup for Flamengo. I'll also bring the probable lineup for Vitória. Flamengo, which should have a lineup similar to that one. A team like the one that faced Independiente Medellin, which played very little and only got a few minutes. These players aren't as in rhythm as those who play regularly. These guys have already gone 2 games without playing, without starting. So Flamengo, yeah, we hope these players can have a great match. Yeah, so that's the probable Flamengo lineup. Rossi Royal, Danilo Vital, and Alexandro. Everton, Araujo, Jorginho. Since they don't play on the weekend, they should play now, right? And Carrascal, Luis Araujo, Samuelino, Cebolinha, and Bruno Henrique, okay?
E Bruno Henrique, tá?
This is the probable Flamengo lineup, which has Alassian back on the roster and Gonzalo Plata with a knock, right? With a knee injury as well. Gonzalo Plata is out, right? He wasn't included. He was doing really well. So Gonzalo Plata isn't on the roster for this game. I hope he recovers quickly because he's become a key player for Flamengo again. There's nothing like playing against Atletico Mineiro there at the arena to lift the spirits of our Ecuadorian. So the absences are Plata, Eric Pulgar, Lucas Paquetá, who couldn't recover in time for the game, and Arrascaeta, who's recovering quickly and well, but will only be back after the Cup. Probable lineup for Vitória: Lucas, Arcanjo, Nathan Mendes, Kaká, Luan Candido, and Ramon. Baralhas. Look, there's Baralhas. Zé, Vitor, Emmanuel Martins, Eric, not Erico, not Eric Pulga. Bahia has Eric Pulga. Vitória has Eric. René and Mateuzinho, okay? Coach Jair Ventura. And the referee. It's Rafael Klaus, who usually makes a lot of mistakes against Flamengo, and it's impressive how the referees don't let Flamengo play. Flamengo's games have much less actual play time now. It's wild what they're doing, right? And Flamengo is a team that the more time they have to play, the better they get. Yeah, the assistants are Danilo Ricardo and Simão Manins, also from São Paulo. Bruno Bosquilha from Paraná. They're referees who've made a lot of mistakes against Flamengo. The VAR is Daniel Nobrebins from Rio Grande do Sul, also with a lot of mistakes. Keep an eye on them. So what's your predicted score for me? 2-1 again, Mengão. And my friends, it's impressive that there are Brazilian politicians who are against Olympic sports, against member-owned clubs, clubs like Pinheiros, Flamengo, Franca, even Corinthians itself. Clubs that have Olympic sports and that develop athletes for the Olympics and everything else. I was shocked, man. I thought it was going to be unanimous because we saw it the day before the vote. There in Brasilia, the president of a member-owned club was campaigning, giving an interview to Kazé TV, campaigning against the athletes, Olympic sports. Because for me, fighting in favor of the SAFs is and not even defending her own club, right? Nothing is clearer to me than the fact that she campaigned the day before so that the politicians there, the deputies and everyone else would vote against it. The rate which was reduced still has to go through the Senate, but it brings it down to 5%. So the tax there for the member-owned clubs. And there are a lot of people working on this, okay? A lot of people working, but it's shameful, okay? Take a look at these people who don't value our sport, who don't value member-owned clubs, right? There's Kim Kataguiri in São Paulo, Tabata Amaral, PSB São Paulo. The other one is from the municipality, Missão São Paulo, Pedro Campos. Pedro, PSB Pernambuco, right? Unbelievable people, unbelievable. Take a look at these people who vote against something that's meant to help Brazilian Olympic sports. I want to congratulate Alexander Santos and BAP at Flamengo. Alexander Santos, who is also the guy in charge of government relations at Flamengo and who has fought hard to make all this happen. I have to congratulate the congressman, right?
O Luizinho, Dr. Luizinho.
To Dr. Luizinho, because he also fought for this. He made this situation happen too, okay? Look at that, look at that.
A day of victory, not only for Flamengo, but for all the clubs and non-profit associations in our country that invest in Olympic sports. I don't know if you know, but the vast majority of our Olympic athletes are trained at clubs at Flamengo, at Minas Tennis Club, at Pinheiros, at Clube Paulistano, at Praia Club in Minas Gerais. These are the places that produce Olympic champions. We approved a differentiated tax regime so that these associations, these clubs that produce Olympic champions, can have a reduction in their tax burden. That's it. They pay less taxes because they will encourage Olympic sports. Flamengo and the clubs have an institutional mission
to train athletes,
not only in soccer, but in various sports. And today we approved a historic project. I want to thank the 421 federal deputies who voted with us on our project. I want to thank President Hugo Mota, thank President Bape, the National Relations Director of Flamengo, Alexandre, that all of us together did a great job, and we are changing the history of clubs in our country, encouraging Olympic sports. It's very important to remember that even though we are champions in football and have great clubs, we need to protect these clubs. We don't want the clubs to be forced to become SAP. Sad.
Whoever wants to be
can be SAP, but the clubs that train Olympic athletes need our respect, our care. That's why I'm very happy. And absolutely for sure, we will continue here from Brasilia, transforming lives and helping to train more Olympic champions in our country.
And another thing, SAF, the F in SAF stands for football. From the moment you have a club director from an association who says that all clubs should follow that model and become a SAF, now you're acting against your own club and against Brazilian Olympic sports. This is a shame. It's a shame. Okay, so I'm happy. Thank you to everyone involved. And as for those I mentioned by name here who unfortunately voted against it, I can only regret it. My friends, today we have the STJD judging the complaint that Flamengo, right, suffered regarding the incidents near Maracana, including on the subway ramp, okay? I've already looked into it here. It was on the subway ramp. It wasn't inside the stadium perimeter. It was already at the subway entrance there, on the other side already. Okay? So now Flamengo is responsible for everything that happens in Rio de Janeiro. Vandals go around breaking things in Rio de Janeiro, so Flamengo is responsible then, okay? Failing to take action, holding Flamengo accountable for failing to take measures capable of preventing and suppressing disorder. How come? Flamengo always suppresses it, right? Inside the stadium and within the stadium perimeter.
Yeah.
And then I got access to this. Okay, guys, they want Flamengo to lose up to 10 home games. This is shameful. They want to take away from 1 to 10 home games if punished from 1 to 10 games. And a fine too, right? And also, look, Flamengo was also charged over the delay at the beginning of the match, okay? Which can result in a fine of up to 1,000 reais for each minute of delay. It's not much, but there are so many reports, right, that it feels like persecution, okay? Yeah, just to make it clear for you, the decision doesn't affect the match against Palmeiras on the 23rd, which is Flamengo's home game, because if Flamengo is punished, they would seek a stay.
Ainda que não tenha o pedido.
Yeah, the request is accepted. The club manual provides for 10 days to serve the suspension. Yeah, in this case, only the match against Coritiba would need to be rescheduled. So, okay, unreal, man. It's unreal. It's unreal, man, for us to get
A gente pegar.
Something happens in Rio de Janeiro right near the stadium and Flamengo gets punished. For God's sake, right? The ones who have to take care of the security outside of the city hall, the government, the police. Man, for God's sake. That's just sad, right? And the worst part of all, right, man? The prosecutor there, the one who filed the complaint against Flamengo, is from São Paulo, right? He's from São Paulo? Man, he has a direct interest in the São Paulo clubs too, like Palmeiras and so on. It's unbelievable that this happens, right? It's unbelievable. Let's see. We'll be watching to see what happens today, but it's shameful. Just this accusation alone is already shameful. And Andre Rocha, a journalist from S1 Live, he made a comment that I thought was important for us to bring up here. It's the same thing Flamengo Cria posted here. I thought it was important for us to bring it up here. Quote, then this narrative of vilification is created because Palmeiras has had this method of putting pressure on the referees for years. João Martins, Abel's assistant, said there was a system that didn't want to allow Palmeiras to win 2 titles in a row, and Palmeiras won. Then Flamengo does this for 2 weeks, and suddenly they become the devil, evil incarnate. Because for 2 weeks, Flamengo decided after what happened with Ramon and Abel, and that on Thursday they tied Flamengo up. Cruzeiro with what? And on Sunday they did what they did with São Paulo and Palmeiras. Inside Morumbi's, Flamengo looked and said, if we don't speak up, it's going to get complicated. So, but Flamengo can't, Palmeiras can't, Flamengo can't. No, they say, Andre, Flamengo, that Flamengo complains, the other clubs complain, Palmeiras doesn't even complain, only complains in the proper channels and doesn't complain publicly, which is a big lie, right? Then he says, I've already noticed this in the narratives about the Bruno Henrique case, comparing it with cases where there was conspiracy, where the guy received money, clearly different cases. Yeah, man, it's impressive. Bruno Henrique not being punished, Bruno Henrique this and that, right? When Brazilian soccer becomes polarized between Flamengo and Palmeiras, people are clearly picking sides, and in a scary way, right? Because then it's people I know from the newsroom and people I know, from talking off the air and setting aside any mindset, emotion, or rivalry. And suddenly they pick a side in this polarization. They pick a totally unexpected side, the side of the biggest rival. Yeah, they're choosing that side, okay? This is getting scary for me, and Flamengo needs to be careful with this, about not allowing this narrative of vilification. Because when you villainize the enemy, it's so that when they're defeated, no matter how it happens or by what means, the consensus is that they deserved it because they're bad. And evil has to lose and good has to win. But that's why we're bringing up here the importance of Flamengo being one of the few that's fighting for Brazilian Olympic sports, while the other side is fighting for corporate club models.
né? E eu tô
SAFs, Andre, I see this villainization happening, right? Yeah, I saw Abel Ferreira making a statement yesterday saying it must suck not to be a Palmeiras fan, right? Complaining about influencers, commentators, the media, it's shameful. He doesn't stop complaining. He complained again yesterday. And then we have PVC talking.
PVC falando.
It was about BAP and other journalists talking about BAP too. Talking about Flamengo, about Palmeiras, right? And it goes along the lines of what Mauro Cesar said, Andre Rocha. Mauro Cesar yesterday said he made a joke, posted Leila's statement and made it clear, like, no, she wasn't defending the idea
Ela não defende
that she wants a SAF. No, like, right?
que é uma SAF, não. Tipo, né?
The guys try to explain things that are
Tentam explicar coisas.
inexplicable. Then PVC said this, Leila didn't say that Palmeiras has to become a SAF, especially because it won't become a SAF during her administration. This topic wasn't brought to the deliberative council. There's no proposal. It's not during her administration. That's not the point. She said she's in favor of the SAF model compared to the association model. Obviously, since her family members are going to that organization, to Vasco. Soon we'll see her there at Vasco. It's possible, okay? It's possible. It's not about that. She said she's in favor of the SAF model compared to the association model. When she talks about taxes, she's talking about BAPI. Then okay, you're right. She only thinks about BAPI because BAPI is discussing the taxes tied to Olympic sports. I think Leila needs to forget about BAP. And then he comes and says, and BAP needs to forget about Leila. BAP needs to forget about Leila. Do you want BAP to stop responding? Do you want BAP to stop responding to Leila Pereira? Do you want everyone who speaks when you go and bring up a bunch of situations about Palmeiras, right? And you want these situations not to be responded to, right? The people from UOL and everyone else, they just say it. There's a contract signed by Landim and no one is going to respond with the truth. So, yeah, and then Leila says whatever she wants and BP stays quiet. That's it, right? There was another influencer. He likes when people mention his name. I saw a video the other day, Fui Clear, right? I joke and call him Fui Shampoo. It's not out of disrespect, okay?
Fui shampoo.
Fui Clear. Yeah, Fui Shampoo. I joke that clear is that perfume. I mean, that shampoo, sorry. And I like to joke. It's just a joke, actually a respectful one.
Só que...
Yeah, I disagree. You mentioned BAP, right? I disagree. I think, man, a genius, a guy who does amazing things for Brazilian sports. And I believe you should actually be demanding that your president, Pedrinho, fight for Olympic sports as well. After all, Vasco has them too, right? Or do you not like Olympic sports? That's an important question for you. So I'd actually like to respond, right? Eduardo Semblano, right? I was clear, I joked.
Fui clear, eu brinquei.
I'll say again that I was just joking around saying I was shampoo, right? Because of clear and all, that's me. No, nothing against the guy. No, I have nothing against anyone. I comment, right? I criticize when I think something needs to be criticized. Yeah, but he came in, he not liking BAP, that's his right. He says BAP is a jerk, says a bunch of things. Yeah, he defends Pedrinho, who I think should be defending the association-based club model, right? His club is an association mainly. He should be defending Olympic sports. But no, he didn't even bother to help BAP in this important victory for Brazilian Olympic sports and for the member-run clubs. Right, there's still more to go. But when he speaks badly about BAP and another director, I believe he might be talking about Rodrigo Paiva, who is also a fantastic guy, a great professional, yeah. I believe he's talking about Rodrigo Paiva. I won't say for sure, but I think he has no idea what it is, what the guy did for Flamengo's communications and how much the club improved after he arrived. He probably has no idea. It's easier to attack. I'm amazed. Clear, I saw Leila Pereira talking. There are clubs that have informal press offices, but there are also those who do. Vasco has them too, and I'm going to make a connection here, okay? And the Lamarcks are still with Vasco and all that. This whole story, Leila Pereira defending the SAFs, and then the influencers start, who are also press officers, right, from Vasco. I won't mention names. Attacking Flamengo, that's what we notice the most out there, right? And wanting to talk about the sponsorship, trying to find, right? Man, it's a bad situation saying that, yeah, there's also a conflict of interest and all that, that the company sponsoring Flamengo, Betano, also sponsors the championship. Is there a connection? So let me remind you that Flamengo won the 2024 Copa do Brasil and Atlético Mineiro was sponsored by Betano, okay? I'll remind you that Flamengo played the 2025 Libertadores final against Palmeiras, and Palmeiras was sponsored by Sporting Bet, which was the main sponsor of the Libertadores. Yeah, I think your theory just fell apart, right? Ask someone to give you some different data, because there's no point in talking about people without having serious information. And my friends, man, I'm really impressed. Comment from Andre Rizek. I worked with him back at IG, right? I talked to him, it's no problem. Man, I comment here. I bring up the person's comment to offer my own critique. I have nothing against anyone. No, I'm just impressed that, man, the guy really is anti-Flamengo. Okay, fine. Me too, right? I'm an open Flamengo supporter and I stand up to anyone who talks bad about Flamengo. I respond to the comments. I offer my critique. I get along with everyone with all due respect always. Rizek worked with me at IG, nothing special. Now, his statement, his comment about Flamengo is just club bias, right? Unbelievable. He says the following, check this out. A media culture has been created in Brazil that gives everything to Flamengo and nothing to the others. Wait, but who is really defending Olympic sports? Who's fighting against all this craziness with SAF? Right? So are you going to say Flamengo is the villain? The villain, right? Is it more about villainizing Flamengo like Andre Rocha said? Then you get Flamengo fans used to thinking it has to be this way. Nothing against the club, but Flamengo fans have gotten used to this. What are you talking about? Gotten used to what? That everything is for Flamengo and nothing for the others. Do you want Flamengo not to be champions because you think it will be bad for Brazilian football? It's impressive, man. It's impressive. He was on the Chala podcast then, giving that statement, right? Making that comment that all for Flamengo, nothing for others. Look, see, what Andre Rocha said about the vilification and the fact that they try to show that it's bad when Flamengo wins. It's bad for Flamengo to be winning in the positions where they stand their ground, like in the case of BAP with that delay issue, right? About the member-run clubs paying less tax, right? Because the SAF would pay less tax. So all these things that Flamengo achieves, these victories, do we have to villainize them? It's not worth it. No, Flamengo is wrong. Leila is the one who's right, fighting for Brazilian soccer, right? For the good of soccer, to put an end to selfishness, right? That's crazy, right? Now that everything has been proven, everything she tried to do with the SAF issue has come out, right? Supporting the SAF. Are you going to keep up with that speech? That's it. I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe down below, turn on the notification bell, and leave a big like on the video. Thank you so much for your company. Greetings, Flamengo fans. This is Flamengo. Big hug. Thanks. I'm out.